Good afternoon and welcome to UCA's online panel discussion. My name is Aga Khan and I am the Chief Information Officer here at the University of Central Asia. I hope you are all doing well in these challenging times. I'm really happy to see so many participants from different countries. We have a very interesting topic today, blockchain as good governance technology, with a very experienced and honorable panel members. The panel discussion is being organized in collaboration with the Ministry of Industry and New Technologies, Republic of Tajikistan, the StrategEast, and the University of Central Asia. With our special request, our today's chief guest is His Excellency Dr. Sher Ali Kabir, Minister of Industry and New Technologies, Republic of Tajikistan, who is joining us from Dubai. Welcome, Honorable Minister. Without causing any further delays, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Syed Suhail Hussain Naqvi, Rector, University of Central Asia, for his welcome remarks.
Thank you, Shaukat. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable Minister Kabir Sher Ali, Minister of Industry and New Technologies from Tajikistan, respected members of StrategEast, as well as our speaker for today, speaking on certainly one of the most important and innovative technologies of the new generation, blockchain. Why, you may ask, is the University of Central Asia hosting this forum? And the answer is very straightforward, because this university, which is a most special and unique international institution in the world, formed as a result of the agreement signed between the government of Tajikistan, which was the host and the first one to propose this idea, the government of Kyrgyzstan, the government of Kazakhstan, and His Highness the Aga Khan. It is a university chartered by all of the countries, recognized and registered in the United Nations, with the sole purpose of bringing knowledge in whatever form, in greatest, latest form, to this region of the world, to recognize the inherent talent in this part of the world, which has been a knowledge repository of the world for millennia, the Silk Route being both a birthplace and a transit place for knowledge accumulation and distribution in the world. So it's our privilege to have the Honorable Minister from Tajikistan being the chief guest of this excellent new initiative over here, in which we are bringing experts from different parts of the world and using technology to spread that information across this region, with the partnership of StrategEast Center for the New Economy. Our university has both an undergraduate school with one campus in Tajikistan, one campus in Kyrgyzstan, and the one in Tajikistan focusing on economy, which is the specialization of Minister Sher Ali, as well as earth and environmental sciences. We also have short cycle education focusing on English language, accounting, technical vocational skills, etc. And the Graduate Institute, specifically the Mountain Societies Research Institute, most pertinent to the wonderful, beautiful lands of Tajikistan, located in Khoro. So it's my distinct pleasure and an honor to welcome all of you to this forum and this knowledge sharing occasion. And thank you for all of you who have made this occasion possible.
Thank you, Dr. Naqvi. Now I would like to invite Anatoly Motkin, founder and president of StrategEast Center for a New Economy, for his welcome remarks.
Thank you, Shaukat, and thank you to all our distinguished guests today for coming. And First, let me say a few words about the organization I lead. StrategEast is a non-profit organization with the mission to reinforce the values of the rule of law and private property protection in Eurasian countries through the transition from natural resource-based to knowledge-driven economy. We achieve our goals in the region through the development of the IT industry and the digital transformation of the states. Blockchain technology is one of the key solutions for digital transformation of Eurasian states, but to use this great technology, highly qualified specialists are needed. My experience working on digital transformation in Eurasian countries has convinced me that digital sustainability in this region starts with education. This includes education at all levels, starting with the most basic digital literacy, following by the basic professional IT education, and finally with the relevant higher academic education. StrategEast contributes to the training of IT professionals, and in February this year, together with one of the leading engineering companies, global engineering companies, EPAM Systems, we opened our IT Hub Educational Center in Georgia, in Tbilisi. And currently, students are trained in this program for the most demanded IT professions. The IT Hub has become a perfect model of how a public-private partnership should work in IT education. State support was provided by the Georgian Innovation Technology Agency. Students were recruited with the Business and Technology University in Tbilisi, it's a private university there, and professional trainers were provided by PAM Systems. The launch of IT Hub in February 2020 this year was followed by the COVID-19 outbreak in March. And in a matter of weeks, we were able to fully transfer the training process to the online format. And throughout the entire pandemic, our students successfully learned with their trainers residing in other countries like Belarus, Ukraine, and others. By October, the first graduates of IT Hub completed their studies and got their first jobs with the global IT companies. It's important that these young specialists do not have to leave, in our case, Georgia, their own country, to find a well-paid job. They stay in Georgia and work remotely. Investments in education have always been considered the most profitable in long term. But in the digital world, for the first time, we are faced with the fact that investment in education has begun to bring almost immediate results. It takes 5 to 9 months to train one professional, but in terms of GDP, training costs are paid off in 2 to 3 months. And in most of the cases, in the countries of Eurasia, this is also new expert earnings. StrategEast will continue to contribute to digital resilience by training IT specialists. Our IT Hub is now working in an online format, which means that we have an opportunity to recruit students from other countries. Our immediate plan is to start accepting students from Moldova, Azerbaijan, and Kyrgyzstan, and we're completely open and would be happy to cooperate with other countries. Thank you for inviting me today to speak with our distinguished guests, and looking forward to hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Anatoly. It gives me a great pleasure to invite our today's chief guest, His Excellency Dr. Sher Ali Kabir, Minister of Industry and New Technologies, Republic of Tajikistan, for his remarks.
Добрый день, уважаемые друзья. Мне тоже очень радостно, что мы в таком формате с вами встречаемся. Я буквально недавно был назначен министром промышленности и новых технологий. И те задачи, которые на сегодняшний момент передо мной поставлены, они связаны исключительно, Таджикистан сейчас от этого стандарта, именно от стандартов новых блокчейн-технологий немножко мы отстаем. И у меня задача догнать это и создать условия, чтобы наши молодые ребята, вот как Азизжон тоже здесь участвует, и другие ребята, они понимали, что это очень большое будущее для нашей страны, потому что вы знаете, что Таджикистан более 60% это ребята, которым до 30. Мы, основываясь именно на этом ресурсе, на молодом ресурсе, мы хотим создать все условия, чтобы блокчейн-технологии и все виды технологий, связанные с IT, они развивались и они меняли не только экономику, структуру экономики нашей страны, и создавали условия, чтобы, например, о нашей стране в мире знали больше, чем сейчас. Мы сейчас с вами обсуждаем, что сама структура мировой экономики после того, что 4-я промышленная революция заканчивается, начинается 5-я, да, она связана, естественно, с зеленой энергией, с зеленой промышленностью. И сфера блокчейн в этом направлении, она является очень важным элементом. на сегодняшний момент в структуре таджикской экономики технологии, которые являются связаны с IT, они очень незначительны. И я считаю, что мы имеем большой шанс с учетом вот, вашего опыта, вот то, что вы сейчас будете обсуждать, и с учетом того, что очень много молодых ребят в Таджикистане хотят быть знакомыми с этими технологиями, развиваться. Я считаю, что мы создаем очень хорошие условия для развития этой отрасли в Таджикистане. Вы сказали, что связали, что вот Центральная Азия, история человечества. Я более того скажу, что вся человеческая история, которую мы знаем, порядка 5-6 тысяч лет, она всегда имела какие-то значимые моменты, когда менялась вся история человечества. И именно знаковое то, что в нашем регионе, вот я всегда рассказываю, говорю ребятам, что, например, две основные первые религии, это зороастризм и митраизм, они появились именно в нашем регионе. А три основные нынешние религии, это мусульманство, христианство и иудаизм, они появились именно вот в территории нынешнего Израиля, Турции и Сирии, да, вот так называемые территории Сирии. Поэтому то, что сейчас мир меняется, и то, что, вот, например, нынешний президент, избранный президент Соединенных Штатов, тоже очень большое внимание и именно к вопросам сохранения экосистемы, к вопросам перехода на зеленую энергию, она создает условия для того, чтобы наш регион, который до этого был обделен, например, потенциальным привлечением инвестиций, сейчас создаются очень хорошие моменты для того, чтобы мы это видели, и на основе этого мы создавали новый пазл, мы шли вперед. Буквально я вчера я прилетел в Дубай, и вот все наши встречи, и вчера, и сегодня, они связаны с блокчейн-технологиями. Я не помню, что такой очень интенсивный процессы, которые всегда во время поездок появляются, и это все связано с этим. Поэтому я даже удивлен, что мы с вами буквально несколько недель тому назад говорили об этой теме, а уже эта тема, она развивается, и очень интересно. Вот здесь у нас есть наши друзья, вот Миша тоже, вот он тоже родился в Таджикистане, наш друг, он вам расскажет очень много нового, он один из ведущих специалистов в этой отрасли. И вот наши друзья с Малайзии тоже, вот у них проект здесь в Объединенных Эмиратах, порядка $1,5 миллиарда. Мы с ними говорили, чтобы как создать условия, чтобы они уже начали думать о центральноазиатском рынке. А когда они придут, это будет новое какое-то течение, и она создаст условия, чтобы сама экономика тоже менялась. Понимаете? Ресурсы, да, они есть, и ресурсы будут использоваться, естественно, но человеческий ресурс, он всегда был и остается самым главным ресурсом. А IQ, он как бы от Бога, я считаю, что от Всевышнего, и IQ, например, ребят с Таджикистана, они вот даже вот вы их послушаете, они реально, они имеют очень сильную природную основу для того, чтобы развивать эти технологии. В общем, я очень рад, что мы с вами это обсуждаем. Мы будем делать все. Правительство Таджикистана однозначно поддерживает все новые технологии. Наше министерство, у него даже в названии новые технологии. Мы будем все делать для того, чтобы большее число людей, молодых ребят, начали знакомиться с этими технологиями. Более того, мы сейчас готовим большую программу, государственную программу по использованию блокчейн-технологий. Буквально, я считаю, что вот, наверное, в следующем году в начале будет объявлено, что вот эта новая зеленая технология и зеленая энергия, она будет уже основой стратегии развития нашей страны в течение 10 лет будущих. И блокчейн, он же основан, вот то, что Google, Apple и другие мировые компании, они уже объявили, что они до 30-го года перейдут на зеленую энергию. Естественно, зеленая энергия – это наше преимущество, потому что у нас есть потенциал. Таджикистан, Кыргызстан, вот у нас 500 миллиардов киловатт-часов, и этот ресурс мы используем всего в районе 5-6%. Они в ближайшей перспективе, я считаю, что мы с вами будем свидетелями, что эти компании, они будут строить у нас дата-центры, они будут создавать инновационные хабы. И вот буквально моя вчерашняя встреча с нашими малазийскими друзьями, это доказательство тому, что они уже переход на зеленую энергию, это создает условия для того, чтобы блокчейн-технологии в этих странах, они имели очень большую перспективу для развития. Я рад с вами общаться. Добро пожаловать. Приезжайте в Таджикистан. Мы с вами будем делать очень много в развитии блокчейн-технологий. Спасибо. Уважаемый господин модератор, у меня
Thank you, His Excellency Dr. Sherali Kabir. I'm really happy that we have a young talent from Tajikistan today, and he's an example of how young talents go abroad, getting their education, and then come back and then serve the countries. I'm talking about Aziz John Azimi. He's a Knight Hennessy Scholar at Stanford University, pursuing a concurrent degree MBA from Stanford Graduate School of Business and MPP from Harvard Kennedy School. He graduated from New York University in 2016 with high honors in economics and honors in international relations. Upon graduation, he worked at the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, and Simon Kucher and partners in New York. Afterwards, he returned to Tajikistan to launch Tajrupt, an education startup with a mission of developing critical thinking skills among the youth and over 300 graduates to date. Aziz John is also the founder of Tajrupt.ai, the first artificial intelligence lab in Central Asia, with a focus on education and deployment of AI. Aziz John was featured in the Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia list in social entrepreneurship category for his work on Tajrupt. He's going to talk about how artificial intelligence can be integrated with blockchain for data infrastructure.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute privilege to be on this conversation today. I'd like to first of all commend His Excellency Mr. Sherali Kabir for the kind words and for the invitation to be part of this panel today. It is a privilege to see that the government of Tajikistan is paying special attention to the development of new technologies, especially blockchain and artificial intelligence. And once again, my gratitude to Mr. Sherali Kabir for the immense and tremendous efforts he's doing in pioneering a new industry in Tajikistan, a new industry that is definitely the industry of the future that we're seeing being developed already today. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to address a few points in regards to how blockchain's role is even more important at the time of artificial intelligence. As the distinguished moderator just noted, I'm the founder of Tajrupt.ai, which is the first artificial intelligence laboratory in Central Asia. Right now with two verticals of work. First, we're educating engineers in machine learning, which currently is one of the most demanded professions globally. There's a global limited labor supply of machine learning engineers, but a great demand for such engineers everywhere from leading tech companies to retailers and manufacturers. And our job at Tajrupt.ai is to educate a new generation of machine learning engineers in Tajikistan who could be doing work for top companies sitting here in their homeland and contributing to the local economy. The second vertical of our work is deployment. We're working on deploying artificial intelligence models in the economy of Tajikistan to showcase that AI isn't just the future, but it is the present. It is here today. Just recently, we had signed a memorandum with 3 banks in Tajikistan in order to deploy artificial intelligence in their credit scoring capacity. So we're showing by example that Tajikistan is already taking the first steps as the pioneer, the regional leader in artificial intelligence in the Central Asian region. And I would also like to note that we're partnering with Microsoft on deploying artificial intelligence in healthcare by looking at COVID-19 data in local universities in Tajikistan. So seeing that our small work is being appreciated by top companies like Microsoft is a commendation to the prospect of Tajikistan as a future AI hub in the region. In regards to blockchain, what I wanted to note is that when we consider the future of AI, AI is based on quality data. Data is the foundation for the machine learning models that are created, or the machine learning models that are deployed across industries, from finance and logistics to healthcare and manufacturing. And when we consider data, we should be looking into it as the new oil, because really data is what powers the industry of today. It is what powers the functioning of the economy globally that we see today in the world. And what I would like to note is that when we look at blockchain's role in not only securing the data infrastructure, but also expanding, democratizing access to data to underserved populations, it serves as the fueling engine for the growth of AI so that researchers, companies, institutes can do more work in analyzing the data and converting it into new products. That is why I would like to note that when we consider blockchain, if blockchain is adopted as a good governance measure and data is secured, it is stored by governments, by entities, by private companies, that provides the foundation for more of AI to be deployed, to utilize, and have better outcomes in all facets of our society. So I'm extremely privileged that this topic is being considered at this moment. And there are a few companies globally that are already doing this type of work. For instance, Microsoft just recently announced a public framework whereby blockchain is being utilized in order to incentivize the deployment of their internal data analytics models. Users on Ethereum are being rewarded for using this technology and applying their own insights for the functioning of the models that Microsoft is creating with machine learning. So once again, it is an absolute privilege to be part of this conversation today. And at the end of my remarks, I would like to just once again note that the government of Tajikistan, the efforts it is taking in artificial intelligence and blockchain are unparalleled in our region. And that is exactly what gives me the hope that the work that company that I'm running, that other companies that we have in our country are doing, is that we are contributing small steps to a big road ahead, one that will bring Tajikistan competitive advantage in new technologies in the economy of the future. So once again, thank you very much, and I hope to hopefully host all of you one day at Tajraft AI. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Aziz John. And now we will start our panel discussion, and I am honored to introduce our distinguished panelists. Our first panel member is Valerie Vavilov, founder and CEO of Bitfury Group. Our second panelist is Vasil Zadvorny, the General Director of the Ukrainian State Enterprise Prozora DP. Our third panelist is Misha Hannan, CEO and co-founder Deep Dive Technology. And our fourth panelist is Anthony Kalaikovan, Chief Technology Officer, Sarba Dynamic Holding Berhad. So my first question and my first question is to Valerie Vavilov about his thoughts on blockchain as good governance technology. And I think you are going to share your screen, so you're welcome to start.
Yeah, thank you, Shokat. And it's absolute privilege for me also to be here with all of you. Let me share my screen. Do you see my screen?
Yes, yes, we can see.
Okay, so I'd like to very shortly go through the presentation about blockchain as a good governance technology. Just a few words about what is happening in the blockchain during last 2 years. You see what the blockchain percentage was brought into the production is growing from 23% of the respondents to the 39%, as well as actual projecting spending on the blockchain from $2.7 billion in 2019 to 6.2 projected in 2021. Also, a lot of many reputable firms implemented blockchain projects during 2020, from different kind of medical data storage to automated financial transactions and food tracing systems. Also, we see if we see at Gartner hype cycle, but blockchain already passed the so-called hype stage, and now we see a good traction for blockchain growth for the next decade. And this is just the beginning of the decade of the blockchain. So as per World Economic Forum, blockchain have a strongest effect for governments in the following 5 areas: public procurement, land title registration, electronic voting, grant disbursement, as well as beneficial corporate ownership of the different kind of registries. And IDC predicts, but by 2023, at least 20% of the governments will be able to issue or plan to issue blockchain-enabled identity systems. And by the way, digital identity is one of the key foundational technologies which will need to be implemented across all the governments to enable blockchain e-government services adoption. So as you see, everything is adoption is growing, and soon blockchain will be adopted by many governments, agencies in many countries. But what could be the challenges. And I would like to discuss 3 challenges during this small presentation. So challenge number 1 right now, what we see in the market, it's integration and interoperability of different blockchains between themselves. So right now, many organizations are working already to create blockchain interoperability standards, and you see it's a lot of different organizations, including ISO certification and so on. So European Union right now already signed declaration. 28 members of European Union states already signed a declaration, including Liechtenstein and Norway, to cooperate in the delivery of cross-border digital public services blockchain standard. This is a huge, it is really huge thing, and a good collaboration effort between European states countries, as well as China. Right now, based on the Beijing and the Beijing province, involving 100 plus different government agencies, creating the blockchain standard, what they plan to implement in the Beijing area, and when implement across the country. So point number 1 of this, and what government should do to accelerate blockchain adoption. So we believe it is the country level and regional collaboration and standardization in terms of to solve the interoperability, let's say, issue of the blockchain. And here it's very important for government to collaborate between themselves, not to develop the blockchain standard government by government, but to unite and start collaboration efforts, how to create the global blockchain standards so that all governments across the world benefit from it. So challenge number 2, citizens don't trust those who are processing their data. And the blockchain can really help to resolve this problem. So with the blockchain-based system and blockchain-enabled system, citizens can really become the owners of their data. And this will be the key element of trusted systems and institutions of the future. So how governments can help here to accelerate the blockchain development and solve this issue? We believe what government should drive smart data management regulation, which enables users to own their data in any systems. There is already a lot of things happening in Europe on GDPR effort, and US is starting to develop some standards here as well. So this will be very important thing. So last challenge, what we see from these 3 challenges is what traditionally e-government services are designed and provided by the governments, which may slow down the adoption. And how governments can help here? Governments, I think, can start designing the system so that you have government-owned different kind of registry systems. You implement the trust layer on top of those registry systems and using the open data approach and give access to the data to the businesses. And business can develop different kind of applications to provide services to the citizens. This could kickstart and bootstrap the adoption of and creation of e-government services much faster. And of course, blockchain here will help to protect the data privacy. So to summarize, in the next 10 years, we can witness radical transformation of the governments for good. And I believe those 3 issues, what we discussed, what I presented during this presentation, would be the key for governments to kickstart the blockchain adoption. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting to hear from you. And my next question is to Vasil about his experience from the Ukrainian state enterprise Prozora. What are your thoughts on blockchain as a good governance technology? Can you share some examples and your thoughts around that?
Yeah, Definitely. First of all, I really appreciate being here today in such kind of discussion. And I really like the point of the conference that we are not talking about like the technology itself, but rather on its impact on the good governance. I'll share a couple of slides from myself a little bit later. Basically, the main idea that I'd like to discuss with the colleagues is the idea of how to build trust between the governance and the citizens, and how to ensure that the data can still stay open and be trusted, and a transaction between the companies and the government can still be established. But before I'll begin, I'd like to give you a brief overview of what I'm responsible for. So starting, well, I mean, just after a revolution of dignity, which took place in 2014 in Ukraine, there was a huge pressure from civil society in order to take a look on how public procurement are being held in Ukraine. Because, I mean, public procurement, it is the area which is most commonly associated with two words. Either it be a bureaucracy, because it's amounts of papers that should be exchanged between the companies and the governments, or like it's much more commonly associated in post-USSR environments, it's a corruption. Because I mean, everyone, I mean, have kind of suspicion that the government money are being stolen within these processes. So it was in Ukraine. That's why probably the most commonly used and the most adequate solution was to implement kind of IT system. Now I'll go through my slides a little bit, and then we'll end with my thoughts of like using the principles of open data. And by the way, it's really interesting how the concept, which was light in the middle of the Prozoro system, it is a public procurement IT system which was implemented in Ukraine, is close to what was announced by my co-speaker in the previous presentation. So let's start the presentation. And let's share it. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
So I wouldn't go deep in the presentation, because it's more like about the system. And as for today, we are mostly concerning on the blockchain and good governance practices. The Prozoro is the system which make it available to conduct all the public procurement in Ukraine. Just to give you an overview, it's a fully online public procurement platform. So no paper is being used in Ukraine as for now. It's 100% digital, and it's kind of great, not bad results. So at the end of 2019, we managed to save almost $3 billion of United States dollars. In 2020, our result exceeds $1.5 billion savings on an annual basis. So just because of using Prozoro, we managed to reduce the public procurement prices for $1.5 billion on an annual basis. It's more than 1 million procedures being announced on a system on an annual basis. It's more than 36,000 of public procurement entities which announce these procurement procedures, which includes schools, hospitals, central, local governments, municipal governments, state-owned enterprises, and so on. There are more than 200,000 companies which took place in the public procurement. And by the way, we managed to almost triple this amount, and like up to 50 billion United States dollars are being earned on an annual basis. A lot of awards. Here, probably one of the major points. When in 2014, the group of volunteers basically came up with the idea to create the Prozoro, it was a big deal how to still create the system which can be simultaneously and in parallel trusted by the people online and cheap enough for government. And here where the idea of so-called golden triangle of partnership or two-layer system came up. So in Ukrainian cases, the state and the state-owned enterprise, which I am basically responsible for, manage only the central part of the system. In this slide, it's called central database. It's kind of a strange term from the technical point of view, but it's commonly used here in Ukraine. And it's basically have no like a front-end solution. So this system only contains all the data and all the algorithms, how the public procurement procedures should go. All the customer level services are being created by the private companies, so-called marketplaces, which can connect to the central system and involve either procuring entities or their suppliers. So how it works in the reality? When, for example, hospital would like to procure, for example, masks, they choose one from one of marketplaces from like 13 currently available marketplaces, and using its web interfaces, announce this procurement. There are no limitation which marketplace can be chosen by this hospital. And if the hospital does not like the interfaces or the customer services, they can just switch to another marketplace. And after a hospital announce the procurement, which means filling the fields describing how many masks they would like to procure, what are qualification criteria, what are technical requirements, what are the terms, what are the payment terms, and so on and so forth, this data goes to the central database. And in a seconds, like 4 seconds, as far as I remember, this data will be available on all other marketplaces as well. So then the suppliers who can supply these masks, he can be registered on any other marketplaces, but he will also see this announcement, and through his marketplace, the supplier then can place the bid. All the data that are being stored in the central database are stored in a so-called revision technique, which means that it's almost well, I mean, it's a part of the blockchain ideology as well. So that means that it's almost impossible on a central level to change something, because it will ruin all the chain of the changing of each and every tender. That, at the end of the day, leads us to the situation when the marketplaces are providing services to either procuring entity or suppliers, and they are motivated with a financial scheme, but it's, I mean, another part of my of the discussion to involve as much suppliers as we can, and that leads to increasing number of suppliers. That's why we managed to increase the number of suppliers who would like to sell something to the government. That in turn increase the competences. That in turn increase the savings. Also, important part of my story is that Prozoro, I mean the central database, our IT system, is written on open source principles. So anyone could go to the GitHub repository and go through our code and try to find some kind of leaks or breaches or suspicious types, and that guarantee the level of trust as well. And we pay a lot of attention to the security as well. But again, it's another big part of technical discussion. We managed to create a lot of procurement procedures, almost 20. As for now, we do have consumptory auction. We created e-catalog, which means like e-market, which helps to buy everything like in one click as well. We automate almost all stages of the procurement procedures and implement a lot of monitoring tools. Again, the important part of the Prozoro solution is that all the data about the public procurement are available through the open API. And because of this trusted technique which was used in order to build the system, there are high level of trustworthy for this data as well. So any kind of non-governmental or governmental organization, and you as well, can go to the Prozoro API, get this data, and build your monitoring tools by yourself. For example, you do see the business intelligence tool, which was implemented by the Transparency Ukraine based on the Prozoro data, and risk indicator system, which was built on the Prozoro data by the Transparency as well. And the risk monitoring tool, which was built by the state audit services, which helped them to find some kind of wrongdoings in the Prozoro as well. And another monitoring tools. So basically, there are more than 14 different monitoring tools that was built by the different NGOs based on the Prozoro. And for example, as we're talking about the COVID procurement in this year, so we managed to keep the COVID procurement also in the Prozoro as well. And the guys from Open Contracting Partnership estimate that it took them no more than 5 minutes to get all the data about Ukraine COVID procurement because of this open data ideology and the open API in Prozoro. So probably that's it from my presentation. Just to conclude from my side, I wouldn't say that Prozoro. Well, basically, Prozoro does not did not build on the blockchain technology. It gets some kind of ideas that's used by the blockchain as well. But much more important, as for me, is not to be like the evangelist of kind of technology, but rather to understand the good governance practices. And that implies creating the partnership with the private sector and the civil society, which definitely can be enforced and can be can be enforced by the blockchain, is keeping the data as open as it can be, because again it builds the trust to the data, and to build the ecosystem around the collaboration between the citizens and the government. Thank you. That's probably all from my side.
Thank you, Vasil, for sharing your experience, and very interesting to see. So I would go to Misha now, and then ask the same question about his thoughts on blockchain as a good governance technology. What are your thoughts based on your experience?
Basically, again, from my perspective, we should not think about kind of specific technology as a good governance practice. So the good governance is rather the principle of openness, collaboration, involvement, citizens' involvement, and kind of probably even sharing the responsibility with different entities. So from my perspective, the next decade and the next years will change a lot how the governance itself looks like in the world as well. The transparency does not look like right now as the new great idea. It's rather looks for me as the must-have principle that should be implemented by the government. So I mean, if you can see the government which does not like to share the data, for example, about the procurement, it would be seen all over the globe as kind of suspicious government. So the transparency became itself good practices. The collaboration between the government and the civil society became the good practice. And you should choose an appropriate technology in order to implement these principles. Because only by doing so, you can still keep an adequate trust level between the government and citizens and the businesses. And that, at the end of the day, impacts on their legitimacy. So that would be my answer.
Thank you, Vasil. Now my question is to Michel Hannon about his thoughts based on his experience on blockchain as good governance technology. What you have to say, Michel, based on your experience?
So from my side, what I can add to this, it's really good to see that the world is shifting. And if like I spent last 10 years with blockchain technology, and even 5 years ago, enterprises and government entities didn't want to really talk about blockchain. They didn't consider blockchain really as something unique, and it was really strong association between two words, blockchain and cryptocurrency. And now we're talking about government blockchain association that actually get invited by US Parliament to help them understand how blockchain can bring some solutions in case of governance. Right now, we do experience, we get involved in multiple activities around the globe, in Canada, in US, and now here in Dubai, where blockchain ecosystems actually contributing to resolve the challenges with governance of in different domains and in different sectors. So we do see big jump even in last year, how the blockchain technology get adopted by government entities, and the good actually, I would say, roadmap or how it get implemented. And it's not just a roadmap on a paper. This is what I really like to see. It's really a roadmap where government entities implementing it and moving forward. And it was another question also in the chat actually related to this, how blockchain technology can resolve challenges in regards to security in a voting system. And actually voting mechanism, it's one of the use cases, really common and famous use cases for the blockchain adoption. And like I can really go deep from the technical perspective, how it could be done and how it's done. But really in the short version, blockchain is one of the components that actually helping to address the concern about security and anonymous approach in the voting mechanism where like blockchain get used.
Thank you, Misha. And our last panelist, my question, I will go in the same sequence. What are your thoughts, especially do we need to regulate blockchain, and then how do you see that it's contributing towards the good governance? Anthony?
Thank you. Very pleasure to have a conversation. Yes, actually, I have just looked at it that blockchain is a technology that can be very reliable. I say that's a reliable technology. And this reliable technology can make a lot of impacts, because you look at the traditional way of digitalization, especially a simple option, we take it as certificates. A certificate can be faked very easily. If you even digitalize a certificate, that digitalized certificate can be easily be faked or maybe malfunctioned. Somebody can able to easily change the information into that particular certificate. So what blockchain has been as a good governance is going to have adapt is basic thing is it have the capability to secure the certificate itself. It can be able to protect from any kind of faking informations. It can able to adapt a technological base of giving rights to the citizen. So there are these kind of data or belongs to the citizens. So the citizens' data should be governed, secure, and it should be kept in a very, very personal manner. So people now talking about healthcare. So as a question has been raised over here, talking about the voting system. You look at Estonia have been implemented on 2015 on e-voting. That means this e-voting is driven purely by blockchain. So the crypto takes its advantage of the security perspective of blockchain and created the crypto enhancement access. So it's purely a kind of a technology that can enable the citizens a complete privacy against the data. A simple another example I just want to protect it is talking about digital health platforms. A digital health platforms is concerned. People are still have a lot of question marks how I can share my data, especially my medical records kind of information into doctors and related things. If I go into centralized EMR kind of system, how is going to be get protected? So this is a question mark. But when you look at the whole part of a blockchain driven healthcare system can able to give as private tokens that can private access, say that I can have the rights to share with the people who I like to share. It's not to everyone. So the privacy part of the data can be protected as a good governance by this kind of technology. And I would say that this kind of technology can able to build it in another aspect. So I give an example about the Citigold. Citigold is a company who from Australia is creating an asset-based investment in crypto. So that means you just imagine, I try to create kind of a coin kind of crypto in on the asset base. So asset base is going to be rather moving around it. So means like this particular company have been taken almost 200 million investment has been brought in using this crypto based asset to dig the gold in Australia. So this is going to be a way forward. And maybe I'll just say people who are being as farmers or people who have minerals can able to put it as an asset base of this kind of crypto kind of mechanism. And this will help a lot of small, medium, even countries that can able to ride on it. And again, if you look at this kind of things, there is another question in that about Tajikistan. Yes, it is basically, if you look at it, crypto is going to be not only mentioned on what Bitcoin is going to be a coins based on assets and things going to be created in the future. And definitely energy lower countries, the energy cheaper countries can take the advantage on that particular aspect of it. So from my perspective point of view, I would say that enabling of blockchain technology will actually protect new businesses, new type of investments, and it also provides a chain of traceability. That's very, very important, because now the biggest issue is the traceability. The traceability can be maintained by blockchain. So I just want to imagine now, like we are talking about halal products and we are talking about vaccines that we generate, whether it is original or it is a duplicate. So who can able to identify? This kind of mechanism on supply chain can be achieved by blockchain. So traceability is one of the major governance of blockchain. And if you look at it, the whole part of it is like, I would say the world faces a different problem right now, because we cannot able to trace the supplier actually who is the owner of that particular product or supplier who supply this item. So there are a lot of fake products in the market which cannot able to identify. So blockchain is a one way forward for the government and any kind of supply-based tracking system. So this is something I want to really emphasize on it. Even now we are talking about the Malaysian government is putting into COVID-19 and they want to track it using blockchain to see how people are get vaccinated and where the supply come from. So these are the ways I think that it will be much more give a lot of transparency and in terms of governance related process, and it will definitely will enable new businesses and also a transparency and a very, very quality products on the market. So it is give the right quality and also it gives the right origin of the any supply material that you going to use in the future. So this is what my perspective about blockchain as a technology.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Very, very interesting. And my question now is to Valerie, on the same lines of what Anthony just spoke. What would you recommend as immediate actions for representatives of governments who are watching us today to start after our conference? Because there are a lot of government officials are watching. So what would be your advice and recommendations to them? Valerie.
You know, if we're talking about immediate advice, I would say to start creating some kind of collaborative agency across the different governments in the region to join forces to create the standards, yeah? Because the issue is, and what we see right now is the blockchain, a lot of institutions try to create their own blockchains, yeah? And we saw it in internet 20 years ago. And we will end up with a lot of solutions, what we will need to interconnect, yeah? And that's why I mentioned one of the issues, what we could see in the future, it's an interoperability issue, yeah? So that's why I think the immediate action is to start acting proactively and start creating these interoperability protocols between governments and between institutions already today. And if we start doing it already today, we will see the blockchain adoption happening much faster with and much fluent with no interoperability issues.
Thank you, Valerie. Do we need to regulate blockchain? And this question is to Valerie or Vessel, Misha, anyone if you want to. Do we need to regulate, and how we will regulate blockchain? Because this is new, and of course everybody is working, and it's a buzzword. But what mechanism we need to set up to regulate blockchain?
Yeah, I could provide some thoughts on this also. If we look at the blockchain as a technology, blockchain has implemented trust by design. And what is regulation? Regulation basically it's the trust implementation of any system. And why we need to regulate something? To protect the citizens, yeah, to protect the citizens from some fraudulent actions, yeah. But if we have trust implemented by design in the blockchain technology, basically you don't really need to regulate blockchain because the regulation is already implemented by design. And blockchain, the more blockchain will be implemented in different systems, the easy will be the regulation of the different systems. I think blockchain by itself is some kind of regulation of existing system by implementing the trust.
Thank you. Anyone else wanted to? Misha, maybe you can unmute yourself. I think you want to talk. Unmute yourself. Yes.
Sorry. I would add to this actually. I would say we will come to the point where blockchain, we will have some particular standards of the blockchain technologies. From the regulation perspective, I don't see that actually those two things can even come together, because we need to regulate the product of the blockchain. So for example, if we're using a blockchain in the financial sector, then the product that will be created, that will be blockchain driven, this product should be somehow regulated and should be compliant with particular regulations. If we're creating supply chain management for the recycling industry, as an example, there's absolutely different regulations of the recycling industry, of the supply chain mechanism. So I wouldn't say that we need really to focus on the regulation of the blockchain as a technology. It's more about the use cases of the implementation of this particular technology. So this is in regards to regulations itself.
Thank you very much. We have a lot of questions coming because it's live on our social media also. So we are getting questions there also, and then some questions on our Q&A here. So I will start asking some questions from social media now. There is a question, could you tell us about security problems and technical weakness of current open blockchain? If anyone wanted to respond, yes, please. Yes, Misha.
I wouldn't even talk about this from perspective of security. Like when all the security measurements taken in place, it's really secured, the public blockchains. The challenge that we see with the public blockchains and, for example, enterprises or government entities, it's absolutely different. It's not about security. It's not about trust. It's, for example, about SLA. Okay, so we don't see government entities or enterprise entities that willing to put their blockchain driven product on public blockchain because they don't know, for example, how long it's going to take to finalize particular transaction. And we have many examples on that when transactions that usually get finalized in like 10 seconds were taking hours and even sometimes days, because it was a security, not breaches, but the implications like DDoS attacks on public blockchains. So this is kind of the different angles. It's not security risk, it's more about the SLA, service level agreements, and responsibilities of the blockchain itself.
Okay, thank you very much. And there is a question also on our Q&A, and that's asking, do you think blockchain is a myth or a bubble, or it's a reality? Anyone else, if you want to respond to this? Anthony?
Of course,
reality. But I will give an option. I'll give the opportunity to others.
Yes, Valerie, sorry, you were saying something?
The answer is very short. It's a reality.
Great. Yes, there is another question on social media. How do machines affect our behavior and interaction?
Yeah, I think behavior-wise, of course, machines are already start to impact in our lives a lot because if you look at it, your mobile phones, that one you are using is become a machine that reads you very well about your patterns and things. So I would say for this question, machines actually learn about us right now. We cannot deny it. It knows exactly what are our searching, what is our interest, and what kind of things into it. So it is really, it is actually coming into our day-to-day extension life.
Thank you, Anthony. There is a question from our UNDP colleague and partner, blockchain and electronic voting, how to ensure personal data security and voting secrecy. Please kindly elaborate. Thank you. Anyone? How to ensure personal data security and voting secrecy.
So I can very shortly pick up maybe on this. Because blockchain implemented trust by design, by powering systems, data protection systems with the blockchain, we will end up with the user or citizens own their data. When you're owning your data, you are the ultimate decision maker how to manage the access to the data. Of course, it's not only the blockchain, but it's the blockchain plus the different kind of applications what will enable this kind of security. But once you as a citizen become an owner of your data, you will be the decision maker, and you will be the private key which have access to your data, just like you have a private key to have an access to your crypto wallet, for example. Yeah, when we start implementing this kind of user-centric systems, you will be able to control this situation. And also using the different kind of hashing technologies, you will be able to get the privacy. For example, for voting systems, voting system will get the vote, but this vote will not be related to some passport or some ID document, but it will be hashed passport or hashed ID document, which will be encrypted, and you will just see the encryption code of this passport, and it will mean nothing. Yeah, but citizen will be able to prove but his vote was counted.
It technically follows the principles of cybersecurity that we call it zero trust.
Okay, thank you. And my other question to Asil is that there are a lot of government officials who are watching us also today. So, what would be the starting point to implement blockchain? For example, countries where it has not, some countries where they are thinking about it, but they haven't started. So, what would be the starting point? How they should prepare themselves to start implementing blockchain, and what is the first thing they should consider?
Well, probably I wouldn't be like the magician here if I would say that the starting point definitely should be the business case, the problem that are being trying to address. So you should not like implement the technology just because it's like fancy or hype itself. You should address some kind of business case. In a continuation of what was already been spoken by my co-speakers, I would say that we should focus on the area which definitely requires a big level of transparency and the trustworthy. So the first point should be to understand what are the civil society demands on these topics, and what are the constraints that could be addressed by the blockchain technology. That's how the Prozoro was built in Ukraine. So first came the request from the civil society. They would like to see all the data about the public procurement, rather than like the idea, so let's implement some kind of new fancy technologically solution. So yeah, and the second part of the story is definitely to build the broad stakeholder coalition. So you need to unite different market players and market makers basically around this solution. Then any kind of technology can be implemented. The third idea is also based on the Prozoro experience, is not to start somewhere where regulation is definitely being required. So talking about regulation, for example, for blockchain, yeah, probably blockchain itself does not require any kind of regulation. But on the governmental level, I still can imagine that you should somehow define which technology is being considered as a blockchain based on the governmental level and which is not. If you're automating something in a healthcare, you still need to do some kind of regulation amendment. If you are dealing with the money, you still need to do some kind of regulation amendment itself. So if you'd like to check the idea itself, please find the area which requires at least minimum regulation changing. For example, when Prozoro starts, we start the system on so-called under thresholds procurement. So these are procurements that are lower than 7,000 of United States dollars, and these procurements are not regulated by the law. So they're only like a recommendation rather than requirements. That's why implementation of new solution was so easy there. So it was like a pure commercial solution. So we find volunteers through the procuring entities. They try to use the system. They see the results. We can demonstrate these results. We can basically sell these results to the government, adapt the law, and move on. So these three ideas, please be focused on the real requirement of the civil society, build the broad stakeholder coalition, and test your solution on those areas which wouldn't require big regulation amendments.
Thank you very much. It's interesting. There's a question to Anthony and Valerie. For example, there are a lot of, at the moment in this session, a lot of IT professionals and students are also hearing, and then we are recording this for them also for our own students. So if a IT professional wanted to build their career in blockchain, or a student who are just graduating from the university wanted to go in this direction, what would be your advice?
Okay, yeah, definitely, because the basis is there. The basis is there, and it is purely a programming methodology. So one is talking about programming methodology. The students has to start to take some use case scenarios and try to implement with these frameworks, because there are a lot of frameworks, there are a lot of open source frameworks, there are a lot of things available. So they can have to take some kind of domain and start to implement it. So I would say like a simple kind of implementation can work on blockchain. A regular type of programming, it's not a different kind of programming aspect. If you look at like a graduate, an IT graduate, he must be very well with Java base, and then he should be with some kind of PHP programming. And there are a lot of available frameworks that helps them to able to elaborate more on blockchain related open source. So there is no, for me, I don't find that you have to learn a different set of programming things into it. It is basically a existing set of programming, but it just only to know how to use the tool and integrate it out. So that is a very good opportunity, and it is going to be the future driving technology.
Yes, Valerie, you want to add anything here?
I fully agree with Anthony, and the only thing what I want to add, just start today. Don't wait.
Okay, sounds great. There's another question, and I would like to target that to Misha, because this is about the Central Asian question. They're saying that, can you please specify how smart contracts can be implemented in Central Asian market? If you want to comment, Misha. Please unmute yourself.
It's actually a really big question, and to answer this question, I probably can spend hours and days. In short, I would say that smart contract technology today and smart contract capability today allows us to really see any challenge as really out of possibility. So it's just, I would say the capability is limited by our imagination. Today, we've seen we use smart contract solutions in absolutely different angles and different projects, even if it's crypto-related projects, if it's governance-related projects, if it's a project in supply chain management, we use smart contract technology. So it's literally brings us endless opportunities to address business challenges by leveraging smart contracts. So it's kind of not easy answer, but I really would encourage everybody to see smart contract technology and consider it really as art of possibility, and there is no limits.
Thank you, Misha. There's another question. How do machines affect our behavior and interaction? This is, I will direct this to Vasil, if you want to respond to this.
Well, I mean, again, that's a question that could be answered through the days, basically. So I wouldn't say that it is the machines which really impacts our behavior. It's rather the product and the customer experience that do. So and that's lead us to the question about how the governmental services and how the good governance should be built. So we should not just like introduce new machines or implement new technologies. We rather should be building new types or updating old types of products. So again, it's like a long kind of discussion. So how should the government services should be implemented? And the problem here is that commonly we are just like automating all these tons of papers and references and information that that previously were filled on a paper based. But that's not really a great idea from my perspective, because it's not like implementing new product. Paper is not a product which is being consumed by the citizens. Information, governmental services, that is a product. So I'm not really interested in increasing the pace of filling of my paper for the government. I'm interested in getting like students' fees, in getting new tickets, in getting right to drive the car. I'm not interested in getting driving license. I'm interested in getting right to drive the car. That's my interest. And that's how the governmental services should be built. So we should focus on the value which are being presented to the citizens and build our products upon all that. And then if we take such kind of approach, probably new types of solutions and new implementation areas of different technology as a blockchain, artificial intelligence, IoT, whatever might came up.
Okay, thank you. So I will just take the last question now because we are already a little bit running out of time. So can I ask all panelists to just give some overall advice on implementing blockchain in organizations? So just take 1 minute and then give, based on your experience, what would be the right approach? You have discussed before about the implementation in the government sector, but an organization, small company, medium, large size enterprise, how they can start planning about this part in addition to finding the right business case. Maybe I will start with Valerie, and then I will go to Misha and Anthony, and then Westian.
If we're talking just companies, the answer is very simple. We just need to dedicate some budget and start. So what else I can say? If we're talking about opportunity for businesses to start, don't doesn't need regulation, and create the so-called sandbox approach to embrace innovation, where you create the environment where you give business opportunity for experiments, and when something came out of this experiment, sit together with the business in one room and decide, do we need to regulate, or how do we regulate, and how to simplify the regulation? Because what is happening right now in the world, we're using, in some of the areas, we're using, I don't know, 50 or 100 years old regulation rules, but the world is different. We need to adapt. The regulation need to adapt as well.
Thank you, Valerie. Yes, Misha, you want to say something?
I would just add, like, I totally agree with Valerie. We need, like, organizations need to start thinking in this direction. And I would add to this, like, just one small thing. I would encourage organizations, enterprises, government entities, like all entities, even to take a look from a different angle of their current challenges or current solutions, and think, what if we will implement this new technology, blockchain driven, what will be the outcome, and do real calculations and see how it's going to work. Valerie mentioned that we use some regulations and some rules and sometimes some procedures that so old, like decades and sometimes even hundreds of years old. And as an example, on one of the projects here in Dubai, we demonstrated how a blockchain-driven solution can not just save millions, and we're talking about $30 million in savings to one entity. We also demonstrated how this new technology is providing new opportunities to create new streams of income. And we're also talking about millions a year that just get introduced to the business by doing small switch, changing the way they operate, and actually leveraging blockchain as a technology that allows them to change the way they operate. Small shift in positioning and thinking, introducing to a lot of opportunities. So this is what I would encourage any organization to even kind of review what they currently have and think from the angle, would new technology bring value to us?
Interesting. Thank you very much. And Anthony, just to add in addition to what I just asked, there's one question. I will just combine that into this one. And the question is, digital transformation looks like a never-ending process and rapidly changing with technologies, rapidly obsoleting and being taken over by a new one. What do you think, you probably know already, would be logical next step in process?
All right. Okay, this is something very interesting question because when you look at the digitalization as it is a never-ending process, and I would say when you look at the whole process to evolving of technology from one case to another case takes few years. Normally, you look at like in the year of 20, maybe you look at like 2004 or 2000, you get with a different version of technology will take 2 to 3 years or 4 years. But now the technology is moving very fast that every month and every, like few days later, there are new things in the market. So digital adaptation is something I would say we have to be more innovative because without the innovation, the business are not going to move. And without the innovations and things, you cannot keep up to the date of the technology market. So-called the technological market cannot be kept up. So it's very important to make sure the digital has to be followed in a very, very fast manner because you will be see a rapid change after the COVID. You look at the digitalization process, take another step and move further up into it. So this is something we have to be very, very careful in terms of this particular thing, and have to, especially educational institutions, has to keep up to date on the technology to bring especially the students with their newer adaptation, I will say the new norms of education and interacting with the industries and make sure that they are ready for the upcoming industry and digitalization process as well. And just to add on into what my other colleagues has been talked about is exactly the organization has to look at their domain, and also they have to keenly look at which will benefit for them when they adapt this new technology. Especially, like always when there is an organization, they look at the very specific important points. That means the points you look at, this is going to be a critical path for your business. That critical path has to be blockchain, has to be evolved with technology so that the organization can able to see the benefit immediately, because that will govern it and that will bring more business adaptation to them.
Thank you very much. Vasil, just to add a few more, in addition to what has been just said, there is a little bit more we would like to hear from you about how blockchain can help in the traceability of products and taxation.
Basically, currently we aren't considering blockchain as the technology which can be used in the public area. And again, it's just because the level of the number of transactions and the technological requirements, and just because the level of trust right now is being ensured on an appropriate level for the civil society. So again, it's not because we do not like blockchain or like kind of any other religion possibilities. It's because of business. On another hand, we do see several areas right now in Ukraine where blockchain can definitely be used by either commercial or government. Yeah, so probably that would be my answer.
Thank you very much. Yes, Misha, you want to add something?
I would like to add that right now, one of the biggest use cases that we see from blockchain perspective is actually in the traceability sector, like supply chain management, really hot topic right now. And we're really proud, I'm really proud that one of our projects in supply chain management was actually presented to United Nations last September at the General Assembly. And this particular project was about traceability of the plastic bottles from the moment when they get created up to the moment where this particular bottle was recycled and what happened with this particular plastic after the recycle. Because there's many implications and many regulations, by the way, about the plastic recycling, and plastic is not allowed to be recycled more than a particular number of times. And this is a real, like it was a question in the chat about real blockchain implementation projects. This is the real project, real use case for the real company, and this project is growing and growing right now.
Thank you very much, Misha. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Vasil. Thank you, Misha. Thank you, Antoni. It was very, very interesting, and I can go on and on. There are so many questions because this is such an interesting topic, but we have to just mindful of the time. On behalf of University of Central Asia and also StrategEast, I would like to thank you all for your time today. And I would like to invite you also, if you are in part of Central Asia, in Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, please visit us in one of our campuses, meet our students, and then we are also trying to do what is relevant for the society, and then do some research also. And I would like to invite all of you when and if you get time to visit that part of the world. With those words, thank you all the participants who have been attending this on social media and also on Zoom. Thank you each and everyone for your time, and thank you very much all the speakers once again, and thank you the government of Tajikistan for collaborating this. It's really amazing, and then we are really looking forward to working with you on a lot of more projects. Thank you, and have a very nice afternoon. Thank you. Bye-bye.